The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you enjoy our work, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow the links in the description. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucci, joined, as always, by something MMO related, because he's not my dad, the boy.
Hey.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and, sometimes, and this is just a violent aside, and not, like, just something I came up with to eat up time, because we're not going to have much to talk about. Sometimes I want to start us with a new intro, like something really mocking other style intros of like other, YouTube personalities, one's way more famous than us.
And
like,
you don't because
I don't,
you don't want to become Damien Sandow?
I mean, like, there's that, but like, I'm not trying to hate, and I wouldn't want someone to think I'm hating, because like, Nappy pops in my head a lot, because he screams about, and fucking anybody who says, yo, it's your boy, I don't know, it's funny to me, but like, I'm not going to play you guys like that. But anyway, this is a Netflix Roulette episode. In case you guys are just joining us.
3 are going to hear it.
Now, we usually get 6 hits. We're up in the world. We've doubled our viewership, our average viewership since last year.
I ain't salty one way or another. This is, the Netflix Roulette is for us.
Yeah, long story short, we both noticed our Netflix queues were full, and now we roll dice, figure out what we're going to watch. We trade off each queue, documentaries, comedy specials, and something else I forget is
stuff
exempt.
We've seen before.
Yeah, stuff we've seen before. One of us has seen before. Are exempt because wouldn't be too much to talk about. And if we've seen it before, it doesn't do the purpose of expanding our horizons. So,
But last time we rolled, it was his turn to roll off his Netflix queue, and he came across Dad of Light. Final Fantasy XIV : 14 : Dad of Light. And if you read the transcripts of the podcast where this came up, you will see that I was very complimentary and was looking forward to it and thought it would be good.
If you read the transcripts of our podcast, it's fucking gibberish. I did once. I laughed for a long time.
Oh, like the closed captioning that's included?
Well, yeah, there's also a literal transcript option where Google tries to figure out what the hell we're saying.
Oh.
And we're horrible mushmouths who use a lot of made-up slang, so...
Oh, I might have to do that.
It's good for a laugh.
But if you listen to the audio, I sounded perhaps like maybe I didn't really believe the things I was saying, and now I can confirm that was... No, totally. I believe that this would be good, and I was right. It's amazing. It really is.
I heard this recommendation from a couple of places, and then Dodger basically confirmed for me that it was sweet and it was fun to watch. And so I was like, all right, we'll give it a shot. This is based on a true story. Really, they didn't change as much as I thought they would. They added the office element, I'm almost positive, which is good because everything that happens there is pure gold.
Yeah.
These were real transcripts, real blogs from a guy in Japan who wanted to reconnect with his dad. In the real world, his dad's a huge gamer. And here, he kind of fell away from it after getting a promotion years ago. Because
that makes for a better story.
Sure. But they didn't talk, They just drifted apart. They lived in the same space, but they just didn't really speak. So he hooked his dad up with Final Fantasy XIV, and his intention was to talk to him, befriend him in the game, in secret. And then after they beat like the hardest boss at the time, Twintania, revealed to him who he was. And there's a bunch of other shit that goes on with it. I'm gonna have to drop a spoiler free on this one. I don't know how far we're gonna go into spoilers, but this was really good. It was really sweet. It could have been way more schmaltzy than it was, and it wasn't exactly highbrow, but it's a difference between eating a Pop-Tart and eating like a toaster strudel.
That's a weird analogy, but yeah.
I expected the Pop-Tart, and I got a good toaster strudel. Now, mind you, I prefer Pop-Tarts in real life, just clearing that up, but for the sake of this analogy.
You know, alright, memes aside, let's just say that I didn't have the highest hopes for this. Because I'm not actually a fan of schmaltz to any degree.
Stuff.
I that's not true, because there's heartwarming stuff in other things. I'm not a fan of stuff where that's the idea going in.
Right, where it's fake heartwarming stuff. Or heartwarming stuff that wasn't earned.
And I didn't have the highest hopes for this, but by the end of the first episode, I knew that this was right along that line of genuine and just aware enough of what it is and like tongue-in-cheek enough that I would really enjoy it. I don't know that I would have enjoyed it nearly as much. This is always something I have to talk about when I'm talking about stuff that's in a foreign language. I don't know that I would have enjoyed it as much if it wasn't subbed. Like, because the voice acting, like the actors, their performances is a big part of why this show is good.
Oh, these are incredible actors. Like, even when they're playing like cheesy or really stereotypical characters, they are doing an amazing job. The two main characters specifically, the son and the father.
Akio and
the father.
Taro?
Did they ever call him? I guess his friend did.
Yeah.
Incredible actors. The mom was fantastic. I loved her.
Yeah, she had more of a very much a supporting role. It wasn't quite a bit part. It was a little bit above that, but she had less lines than his older friend at work. Mm-hmm. But for the scene she was there, she really killed it.
Yeah, man, she delivered, and the son's face acting, just incredible. Like, at every turn, he's conveying his emotions through his face like a regular person would, not overacted and hammy. So I really, really enjoyed it. This is honestly the first J-drama I've sat down and watched. I've intended to on a couple of things, but, nothing really piqued my interest enough. And I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and I enjoyed what time I spent with Final Fantasy XIV. About the time I started getting into it, I lost gainful employ, so $15 a month or whatever it is wasn't quite swingable anymore. But if I find the opportunity to be paying that again, I might pay Eorzea another visit with my heart full of Dad of Light.
I imagine this is going to do what they set out to do. This will drive subscriptions.
Oh, no doubt. And this came out, I want to say, 2015? 2016?
I'm sure it drove subscriptions then.
Maybe even 2017.
In Japan. But I love that all of the, like, not the machinima parts of the video game footage.
That's generous.
That's what it is. That's the genre.
Captured in engine. I feel as though slightly more accurate.
But the actual fights, the gameplay fights, and maybe the actual bits with the characters in game were done by the people, the real life people.
Yeah.
Like, were done by that guy and his guild, the same people who did it.
Matey was his character's name, and it's his account that they're using.
Yeah, Matey is the character, and like the rest of the guild joined in. So, because they're the ones who could, because it's not like they could have gotten the television studio interns to go beat Final Fantasy XIV.
Well, I thought, they could have done, like, private server, editing stuff, but, and they might have still, who knows, but, no, I thought it was kind of neat, too, because, the matey thing, and, I'll try to keep this unspoilery, but at one point you see, the dad's got this running gag that he keeps mispronouncing things, like old people do. He keeps calling it Final Fantasia, is the translation they give us. I couldn't quite make it out in Japanese.
Yeah, well, I could hear the difference, how he was saying it wrong in Japanese, but I'm not going to do it for you now, listener, because I can't reproduce it, and I'll just come across real insensitive.
Basically, same. But the son finds where his father has written some notes about the game, and he sees his character's name written as Mayday, which is funny because it's Matey. When you see him in game, it's M. Matey. So the dad wrote it down as Mayday, as in Mayday, Mayday. And I thought that was really funny. Like, what a clever way to make that pun. I don't know if that happened in real life. I did check on some of the actual blogs, but the translations hadn't gone too very far at all, honestly. But spoiler-free, it's 7 episodes. The 8th one you don't need to watch. It was fun, but you don't need to watch it. It's a hell of a lot closer to what I expected from the show in the first place.
Yeah, the 8th episode was an interesting coda, is the easiest way to explain it.
I feel like it was a deleted storyline that they captured the footage and recorded the audio for, but they felt it messed with the pace of the show.
So they popped it in at the end, which is hilarious and fun. But the actual episodes of the show are genuinely fun, genuinely heartwarming, and actually moving at certain points.
Yeah, and it's 7 half-hour episodes. You can binge it on a weekend or a weekday if you're really dedicated.
Didn't quite get me as hard as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 got me, but it's...
You know, I think if you had been in my shoes, someone who's been a Final Fantasy fan his entire life, it might have. Because sometimes the music they pick for certain scenes is not fair.
I imagine that's why they pick it.
Oh, I have no doubt. But yeah, that's a spoiler-free portion over. Again, I'm not sure how much we're gonna spoil, but I do want to give you guys the option to bow out. Hit that like button, subscribe. Smash that bell for us to bother you constantly!
Please don't hit the bell.
Don't touch the
I hit the bell for one channel, this channel, and I regret it, and we upload once a week.
Don't touch that fucking bell.
I hate the bell. I hate the bell. And if YouTube doesn't like that, demonetize me.
No, I can't. I don't know what kind of life I would have to live where I would need to use the bell. Like, I'd have to be subscribed to maybe 2 channels and never open YouTube on a daily basis.
Yeah, other people, they upload too fast.
Yeah. I mean, and all the channels I sub to, if I hit the bell on all the channels I care about, I would be receiving email alerts constantly. 2 p.m., my phone would explode.
It's just true. But that aside,
Yeah.
the plot of the series is really simple, which is why the spoilery section probably won't end up being that spoilery. We pretty much nailed it out for you just now.
Yeah, I mean, there's one big spoiler that I actually went looking for several times. I did the whole, oh man, I gotta know if this happens.
You did?
But I couldn't find it.
Nobody said it?
Nobody said anything.
Ooh, we could get them sweet, sweet internet clicks by being the people to say it.
Yeah, I'll upload the image and I'll have the red circle and an arrow pointing to it. What no one else on the internet will tell you about Dad of Light. And then at someone's face looking really shocked.
Ooh, get the screen of him when he's walking in on Akio and he goes, tissue, use that face.
Oh my god, those actors. If my faux transparency wasn't enough earlier, this was one of those things where we kind of looked at each other and said, do we have half an hour on this? Because like it's not very long in the first place, and it was just light and fun.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, well, there is a lot of substance there, but there's not a lot of substance that is something we would discuss.
This show is a lot of you just had to be there, man.
It's not a lot of stuff we would discuss because we're in accord on this. We both like this show for roughly the same reasons, a similar amount. So there's not a lot of conversation that happens.
Sure.
And we've made this joke several times. Ever since the first Guardians of the Galaxy podcast, we make an effort to not just sit there and quote the show for like 30 minutes because that's not good content.
No, it isn't. As like pseudo lame as it was, I loved how the problems in the game always related to the problems in real life.
I mean, yeah, it's alright. On the one hand, yeah, it's a little hacky. On the other hand, sometimes hacky is good.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like, I'm going to touch briefly on this, but this is a common phenomenon that I and many, surprisingly many other Dark Souls players share. I played the game and it changed my life for the better. I look forward to things now. I don't go hollow. And, like, that happens with other shit, too. You know, sometimes you're playing a game or watching a movie or reading a comic and you see things like, you know, I'm sure somebody out there, as much as we poke fun at it, looked at Superman's "that's over theirs problems" speech and realized, I'm not in charge of everything. I don't have to be responsible for everything. That's over theirs problems. And they took that to heart and moved on with it. And this, you know,
I hope so.
This show does a lot of that with, you know, just in-game stuff coming out of game stuff for different characters, and it's just really neat. They play it well.
I enjoy that they kept certain aspects of the characters very consistent.
Yes.
For instance, at a certain point in the story, it becomes clear that that Indy, he ends up picking Indy.
God, what a good joke.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into any more detail than that.
When you find out about his name choice, that happened. I'm guessing most of the small, funny things that Dad did really happened because the ones I read did.
That's great. But because that's how I think of him.
Sure. Yes. Same.
When Indy he turns a corner and he becomes in the game very, you know, we can't give up. We have to keep pushing forward. We have to keep you know, trying our hardest. And it's really inspirational in game, and then it gets brought out of game for a really genuine reason, and it's very moving. Honestly.
Well, and you know, a lot of it as well is like the entire point of this was for this guy to reconnect with his dad. And the first episode lays really hard on what that means, because his older colleague is coming into work and he just buried his dad, you know, a week ago or whatever. And he talks to them about, no, I didn't really, you know, I wasn't really connected with my dad, which I'm given to understand is common in Japan in these kinds of families, very work-oriented families.
Yeah, like we don't live there. We don't know how much is...
From what I've heard.
Yeah, from what we've been told, that's a fairly common phenomenon.
Well, and you know, it is a little bit here, too, just in slightly different connotations and context.
It's more common in America for children to move away from their parents and get distant because they are literally distant.
Yeah, whereas, you know, some American watching this might think it's really weird. This guy is in his mid-20s and working in a very important-looking office and is living at home.
Which is much more common in Japan.
Yeah, it's getting more common over here, too, which, you know... If you like your parents, good stuff.
More common again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It was really common for most of human history. You know what? This is a real diversion. I'm not gonna.
Sure is. Anyway, but they play that. You know, he wants to find out who his dad is as a person because they don't talk much, and here he can be away from the confines of who he needs to be for his family, and he can just be Indy. You know, not even necessarily himself, but like a sillier, more carefree
version. The version of yourself you are online. The best version of you. The version you wish you were in real life. That's true for a lot of people.
Yeah, it sure is.
I strive to be the same guy, but in both places, but I understand why the drive is there to be more open with yourself online.
I wouldn't know. I don't talk to me. So, you know, through that, he's getting these... You know, it's the difference between a young person and an old person talking as equals. You know, the older person, generally, is going to have a lot of life experiences and life lessons and stuff that they could impart to the younger person through deed or simply talking about it. And that happens, but, you know, that's the sort of thing that, at least in my experience, happened growing up. Whereas he's only getting a lot of this now. And it's still as meaningful, perhaps even more so. But I don't know, it's nice. It's like a coming-of-age tale when he's already of age, you know?
Yeah. It's also a really good tale for anyone. Like, if you are the kind of person who is more distant with your family, or things have grown distant, not because you have anything against them, just because that's how life works, there are parts of this show that will fuck you up.
Yeah. I have a good relationship with my dad, and the first episode had me laid a little bare.
I'm warning you ahead of time. This is an ultimately very positive experience, but if you're the kind of person who, because of how life works, you don't spend as much time with your loved ones, with your family as you'd like, don't be unaware of what's going to happen.
Yeah, or walk into this with tissue.
Yeah, because there's some rough parts, but it's ultimately a really positive experience.
It is. It's really good. Like, the worst thing, the actual worst thing I was worried about going into this is that when they did the reveal, there was going to be a whole, you lied to me for that long.
Oh, I was really terrified of that too.
But I was happy that they did not do that.
No, they did a different thing. They did an amazing thing.
Yeah, it was way more in character for everyone and way more fitting the tone of the show. And the quote-unquote machinima stuff, which it is, but like we've gotten so advanced when it comes to machinima things because of things like Source and other studios like that, where you can take a video game model and do whatever you want with it. Overwatch.
This is a family podcast.
Fuck. Because of that, like, the fact that this is rendered in engine with, like, sweeping camera cuts makes it look a little primitive, but, like, in a good way.
Yeah, it makes it feel like they're actually playing the video game.
Yeah, and I really super appreciate that. Like, even when characters walk up to each other, they do that thing where they kind of cycle walk in place and turn to you.
And all the motions are just like rigid enough that it looks a little strange, and that's how MMOs look.
Well, and it's a lot of the charm that existed in the Make Love Not Warcraft episode of South Park, but not lampshaded as much.
Not lampshaded as much, and also, there isn't a bit where someone shits into a bucket.
Yeah, no, they didn't do that shit. I mean, it was current year. we were beyond that, pretty much. I mean...
Good.
Plus, it was, marketed as part... Like, they have Final Fantasy license here, I'm sure. I'm sure one of the first things the Square Enix head said was, no one's shitting into a bucket, okay?
God, I imagine that in angry Japanese. I imagine that was really great. But...
Oh my god, I just remembered the entire scene in the karaoke bar where the guy's singing the theme to Saint Seiyu.
They do touch on a lot of stuff with Japanese culture that I've seen before, so I can only assume it is a reoccurring theme in the actual culture of...
Or was 10 years ago and now it's tropes.
Yeah, or was 10 years ago and now it's tropes, which is more likely, to be honest. But with, the fact that it's being invested in your work means something entirely different there. It's important that there's actually a line that legitimately, as someone who has a white collar job, baffled me, because the person who was speaking was talking to Akio, and he said, "We don't just do business based on numbers. You have to be a good person," or something to that effect. And as an American who works a job that is in the business world, what? At the end of the day, numbers are what matters, friend.
To extrapolate a little bit, to explain, when you're doing business in Japan, again, you know what?
Yeah, I'm tired of this.
No, if you know better,
tell us.
Please let us know through comments. I'm not trying to speak through ignorance or anything like that. This is what I've been educated of, what I've picked up along the years.
Let's count that as the last disclaimer. Yeah. If we're wrong, tell us.
I mean, there's like 7 minutes left in this podcast, so. But as I'm given to understand it, in Japan, because so much business numbers-wise is equal, or because you can find business with many partners who are similar in numbers, it's often how much fun you have with the representatives that matters more than the actual business you're doing.
Because you're going to get good business I could find a good business anywhere. I could find a good person to sell me X thing anywhere. But if my sales rep is fun and takes me to baseball games and gets drunk with me and we go hang out after work and he's super funny then I'll go with them because then I'll see that guy more, and I like hanging out with him.
Well, and it's also, I mean, we have this a bit in America. It's a little bit different, but you're always happier in an office where you enjoy your coworkers. You know, if you can pal around with them and work doesn't feel like work because your friends are there, obviously you're going to be more attached to a place.
It's just to such an extent.
Yeah, no, it's very strong.
It's very confusing to me, but it makes sense. And they touch on that, and they touch on, like, just a bunch of stuff that really hammers home how important it is for it with Akio's story, with the work stuff that they probably added, how important it is to be able to focus on your job and how much of your life that takes up, which I actually think was really good because it helps show part of the reason why Indy got so distant.
Sure, yeah. Well, and they frame that pretty well.
Yeah, they do. They go to quite a couple lengths to make sure it becomes a clear mirror.
Yeah, it's obvious this... I feel like it's obvious they had intended this for international audiences from the get-go. Because Final Fantasy XIV, the Realm Reborn, is a really big hit. And having played it, yeah, it's one of the most solid MMOs I've put hands on in the last 10 years. So definitely, you know, you have a broad audience, a potential broad audience there. Netflix being the ones to pick it up in America was pretty cool.
Means we got to see it.
Hell yeah, and it was a hell of a lot of fun to see. I don't know, man. It's nice. It feels very human, but it's a nice, soft version of a human story.
A couple little notes that I wanted to give out.
Sure, please.
One, it bears mentioning that regardless of what happens in the show, and I'm not going to spoil that, the actor who plays the father is not with us anymore.
No, that was a disappointing bit of news because he's a spectacular actor and he died youngish.
He died in February. So that is very sad, especially because he was amazing in this.
Spectacular. Just
so much so that I actually went looking to see some older movies of his, and I kind of thought about just going and searching them out and watching them just because I want to see more of that actor.
Hell yeah.
And obviously I'm not going to see more seasons of Dead of Light.
Dad, you look very different.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that I don't take much stock in internet review aggregator things, but this has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. It got a good recommendation, and it was Dodger. I've mentioned before, when we talk about better podcasts on our podcast, in a perfectly platonic, I enjoy her entertainment kind of way, fell in love with Dodger a couple of years ago, between the old Coffee Time vlogs and the raps she did with Ron. And it took me years before I actually started watching Co-Optional. What was it, last year?
Yeah, I've been watching it a lot longer than you.
Yeah.
When I interact with none of the regular hosts of the Co-Optional podcast, like, I don't watch any of their other stuff. I don't watch... I watch Dodger streams occasionally. Occasionally I'll watch a port report from TV. And I don't think I've ever seen anything Jesse Cox has ever done aside from Good Game.
Oh, yeah.
Outside of the Co-Optional podcast.
Oh, yeah. Sad update on that. They're not doing another season of that.
I mean...
guess it just didn't do well enough.
Yeah, that is too bad.
But it was good, and it ended in a good place. But, yeah, no, and Dodger said it was good. And she's had such a good history of telling me, hey, this thing is good. You should check it out. And I went there, and it was. Like, best margin of error I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't do review aggregate sites. If you guys trust what we think about shit, and, I mean, really, why the hell is you listening to this, other than our dulcet tones?
Yeah, if you value our opinion at all, and this sounds like anything you're interested in, watch it. It's really good.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
We usually mention the next thing.
Yes.
That we got.
That was a terrifying little moment of rolling because, wow, what a shitty time to follow something like this up with, like, Moonbreaker, Jason Statham in a Z movie that you didn't even hear existed. It's very blue and he's very British and angry. Someone's trying to break the moon. I'll stop him from breaking the moon. He's going to stop them from breaking the moon. 10 seconds of like punches and kicks and a gun. Something comes to the screen really fast and he's like, oh no, Moonbreaker.
I like how you were doing that to like make fun of my taste in movies, and you still somehow managed to turn it into the ridiculous bullshit Z-grade terrible action movies that you love, instead of the actual thing it would be.
Yeah, yours is more like Jason Statham is upset. Someone did him wrong. He kicks all their asses in the end. I would watch Moonbreaker.
I know! That was the best part of that bit. But no, I rolled as my turn. I got something that's on both our lists, so it was a matter of time before it came up. And that is The Founder with Michael Keaton.
It's about McDonald's.
About the guy who made McDonald's what it is today.
I'm jazzed about this one. You might be seeing Netflix Roulette sooner than the last time.
Yeah, to be fair, we started this one pretty quick. It's just a series, so they take long.
Yes, and we were watching it one episode a day up until the last couple, so.
Well, we clocked in pretty much right on time. It's not like we filled for time or anything. That didn't happen. Nope. Anything else you want to say?
Even if we did fill for time, I think it was a fun podcast.
I think so, too. Everything's better when nerds talk about it.
Let's get hardcore!